critical listening in product development, especially since we develop in mono with one channel. And so you have to really switch gears, and it took me a while to learn what he was teaching there. But here we are.
So you effectively started designing, if you will, creatively with the What Puppy 7.
I started the official mentor apprenticeship relationship. He was always my dad, and of course. We'd swap hats back and forth. But that's when the training into his methodology, his process started. And over the years, having learned his methodology, having been exposed to his process, we started refining the process together. Now it's a two-man team, and things are done a little different. And at a point, a few years into it, I was able, as we talk, hey, I want to listen to this driver. I need to listen to this modification. We have this new material. I say, okay, I'll get it set up. So he taught me how to develop protocols to get the results that we're looking for. And so I would set up the experiments while he was doing other stuff, and then he would just come in. I'd have the chair, the notepad, everything all set out, have all the switchers and everything, and a lot of times it was blind. And I'd say, okay, Dad, you ready to listen? He'll pick up the pad, and then we do the switch, he'd evaluate it, and then we'd discuss the results, and then we would establish what's the next step. And so that whole process was really important for me to learn step by step. I am a very process-driven guy. I've got to-do lists like crazy. Never done, but I've got to-do lists, a checklist, my calendar. I've got things scheduled out. That's my brain works that way. And so over the years, we refined the process from a one-man team to a two-man team. And then I started finding ways where I could contribute in a creative way to help those processes be more efficient, more effective, and development started happening quicker and quicker, and we were still getting great results and then better results. And the Surround Series 2 was the first time where he said, we need to refresh this product, but I'm working on this other stuff, go ahead and do it. And it's like, okay, some people say, oh, that's just a surround, right? For me, I want to develop it like if a person puts it on their wall next to a flat screen, I want to develop it in a way and make it sound good as a full range, wall-mounted speaker. And from that, later, the Alida was developed, and now you're able to mount that to the ceiling for Atmos systems and whatnot. And then the Center Series 3, once again, supportive role products. And then MAXX 3 was one of the products where he was really asking me, okay, what would you do? So we've got this product, we're trying to achieve this, and talking about time domain accuracy and whatnot. And I'd sever the head. I'd make the upper module independently adjustable from the lower, so you have more positions where it can be properly time aligned. And I would sculpt the side like this, and we start drawing together on it and whatnot. And so I think my thumbprint from an aesthetic view that kind of shifted, a product category visually. MAXX 3 is one that I'm really happy with. I look back now and MAXX 3 compared to XVX, it's not a fair comparison because our capabilities back then are very different than what we can do now. We have way more capabilities than we had back then. But I do look back at that and say that was a fun time where I felt like the reins were let go a little bit, and he stood aside a little bit and was observing and was there to coach and was there to mentor in a different role than just setting up experiments or fine-tuning crossovers and whatnot. And then from there, you look at the entire Wilson Audio product line right now, except the WAM and except the Watchdog. They're all products that I was lead designer on.
Wow. So coming back to XVX, earlier on during a private presentation, you talked about the drivers, and the bass drivers are from the WAM. As I understand it, the small or the upper mid-range driver is also a WAM driver.
Yes,
But
yes. The 4-inch is a modification of the 4-inch that's used in the WAM.
Right, but the larger, the 7-inch, is a new driver.
That's a brand new. Yeah, that's it. It's an ALNiCo driver. It has 4 ALNiCo slugs on it, and during the iteration and development of that particular driver, we knew that we'd be sacrificing a little bit of sensitivity. So that has a way of saying our wish list of design objectives. It shifts that a little bit. But my dad, in particularly, he had the vision, and he wanted to experiment with ALNiCos in a way where it's like, okay, can we get enough sensitivity out of it? Can we make it efficient enough to get it into a realm to where we can integrate it into the design and to extract that sweetness, that beautiful lower mid-range sound, and to have low distortion at the same time. So with those being the check boxes, we developed that. Vern and my dad worked closely on that one. I was a part of some of the listening experiments and the testing protocols on that. And we got it to a point to where we finalized the design. It was originally going to go into the tune top, but it didn't make it into the tune top for several reasons that I won't go into. It still needed to be refined just a little bit. And so after the tune top was launched, we spent the necessary time to really get it ready for prime time. And then it went into the XVX. And it was slated to be in with the 4-inch with the tweeters.
And then in terms of the crossovers, you mentioned that, if I understand you correctly, you've bought the necessary intellectual property and tools and rigging of Reliable Cap.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, Reliable Cap, as of September of last year, is owned by Wilson Audio. So we made a deal with Bass, and we bought all the equipment, the IP, everything. And we didn't want to operate in California and have it, split up. I wanted eventually to be able to say, I want it wound this way. I want to try this construction method, and be able to talk to the guys and the next day have a unit ready for me. And that, you can only do that if it's upstairs, right, from the R&D department, the R&D wing. And as I was talking to the guys, Vern really got on board with it, and he got really excited with it, and Blake got excited about it, and is working out the mechanics of how it's operating and getting all the machines up to not just operating spec, but Wilson operating spec. And as of right now, we're finally at a point to where the dust is settled. The machines are all upgraded and they're all fine-tuned to work within our specifications, which are tighter and have a lower threshold than Reliable Capacitor in California. And the tolerances that we have now, we have tighter tolerances for what we're producing for other manufacturers. So we're benefiting from this as well as other manufacturers in the industry. It goes under the heading of industry building, and I hope that this is just one of several ways that Wilson Audio as a company can industry build. It's selfish for us just to think about, how we build this. If we can create parts that help other manufacturers make better products, the customer benefits from that. So
along those same lines, you are now making your own capacitors. One of the criticisms, if I can call it that I've heard from either competitive manufacturers or people who just don't like Wilson Audio for some reason, they'll say, well, Wilson doesn't make their own drivers like brand X or brand Y.
Yeah.
Speak to that if you don't mind. Why is it that you don't make your own drivers?
Well, we don't make our own sheets of material either.
Yes.
But we work with really good vendors that know what we want, and we set high expectations. To all of our vendors' credits, they step up to the plate and they produce world-class components for us to use. And we set the specifications, and they're able to produce and give us samples, and we're able to test those samples and give feedback and say, okay, we need it changed in this way. And they're very responsive to get that back. So we work with 3 different machining companies to provide the metal for Wilson Audio. Our material is made by a company that uses it in a lot of different industrial applications, and a similar type of material is used by the military to bulletproof HumVees. If we were to make every single thing that goes into our product, I mean, it'd be like an Apple campus. It would be huge, right? So we work with the best vendors and that are responsive to our needs and are very fast at working with us to iterate development. And our driver manufacturers are no different.
Speaking of driver materials or manufacturers, you've gone with soft dome tweeter and stayed away from some of the exotic materials that a lot of other companies are marketing about. Why is that?
It's about the sound. At the end of the day, no matter what the specs say, those specs can be somewhat of a guide, and you want to use them to a certain degree, but it's one dimension of a bigger puzzle. Exotic materials, if they don't sound real or bring us closer to the music, bring us closer to the experience, they're not used in Wilson Audio products. A little known fact that the Wham, during the first 2 years of its development, actually we had worked with our driver vendor, and they had custom made us a beryllium version of a tweeter. And we had gone through a couple of phases to improve that design. And it sounded good. And we were developing the crossover, and my dad was working on it and whatnot. And then we pushed the convergence energy to where it's at now, the Mark V. And in an honest, blind, side-by-side comparison, the convergence energy beat the beryllium every single time. And so are we supposed to just use the beryllium because maybe someone will think that's cool? Maybe it's good marketing material? At the end of the day, it has to serve the music. And the convergence energy, that driver served the music better, frankly, than the beryllium. Now, there were a lot of different, drivers